Hi everyone, this is Steven. I'm back again with another review of the DC Collectibles, in this case the bad guys of the New 52 storyline. So to get things started, let's cover the first one right here. That would be Darkseid. He's quite massive and very heavy, so this is not your typical rotocast figure. He is huge, I think 12 inches if not taller. He didn't come with any accessories. He does have limited articulation because there is no articulation in the waist or any ab crunch or any articulation in the ankles. But he can move his arms at the knees and a little bit forward, and then there is also movement in the arms, the biceps, and also can move arms up and down. There is also movements in the wrist and a bit of a movement in the head to the left and to the right. There is no removable pieces on him, so everything is molded on. However, there is one caution, that these shoulder pads can easily break off. They can move slightly a little bit, but they can easily just break. So I would suggest that if you guys have them, don't fiddle with the shoulder pads. Anyway, this is how he looks at the back as well. And for those of you who are not familiar with Darkseid, he's the enemy of Superman and the Justice League, and he's the ruler of the planet called Apokolips. He has a lot of minions and armies under his leadership. He's a tyrant who likes to conquer other worlds, and he uses devices called mother boxes to be able to practically teleport himself to different planets and start the invasion. He has very powerful omega rays that come out of his eyes. They're red in color, and he can destroy them and inflict damage on any opponent. And his sworn enemies are the New Gods, practically another civilization on an opposing planet, who are always standing in his way because they know that he is merciless and always conquest bound. The High Father, the leader of the New Gods, made a pact with him before that they will exchange their sons in order to maintain peace. Of course, Darkseid didn't do it for that reason. He still had the idea, whoever his son is, that he will still attempt to conquer the New Gods planet and also the Earth specifically, because he is mortal enemy of Superman, and he hates Superman, and he's doing anything in his power to destroy him before he takes the Earth for himself. He is the same kind of character as Thanos, because the creator of both of them was late Jack Kirby. He created Darkseid and Thanos, and as you can tell, both of those characters have some things in common. They like to conquer and destroy and wipe out any opposition to their rule, and they also have minions and warriors under them. So that's the thing they got in common. Now, of course, the original son, according to the old stories, that's supposed to be the son of Darkseid is Orion. But Orion was given to High Father to raise him as his own. And Kalibak, on the other hand, was given by High Father to Darkseid as an adoptive son. So both of them grew up separately from each other, and Orion became a good guy. And he's very much humanoid in appearance. He is very different in thinking and in looks than his father. And of course, Kalibak somewhat resembles the High Father, but the only thing is Kalibak is merciless and warlike, and he's sort of distorted in the body because he's very bulky and muscular, but without any graceful features because he doesn't really look humanoid. He looks more mutated. And he has learned that he likes Apocalypse, and he likes being part of a massive army like that. So yeah, Darkseid here was released in several other action figures before this one, based on stories over the decades that were different in nature than New 52. But the main thing is he did have numerous appearances in the comic books, and some of the first figures of him that was made was in the Superpowers toy line by Kenner back in the 80s, and then again we saw another figure of him in the Justice League toy line by Kenner / Hasbro in the mid 1990s, and then again we saw him in DC Direct around early 2000s. We saw him being made there in his first appearance looks, and he was also made with again in DC Direct several years later in the about 7-inch size, based on the story of Corrupt Supergirl. And then he also appeared in the Superman animated series in the mid 1990s, and he also appeared in the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoon series as well. Then he also appeared in an animated movie based on the Corrupt Supergirl storyline, and again he appeared in the other incarnations in the sense of the New 52 animated movie, and he also appeared in the Batman Brave and the Bold, at least 2 different episodes. And he also saw the release of his figure as a Build-A-Figure and as a regular figure in the Superman Classics by Mattel in the early 2000s, and then again as part of the DC Universe Classics storyline we saw his release as a figure, as a Build-A-Figure. And then we come to this one being one of the latest ones. After this one there was another one released in a large size like this, but slightly different costume, where he comes packaged together with a 6-inch figure of a young woman who is supposed to be his daughter. So he's quite a popular character, as you can tell, because he is an ultimate evil, or ultimate incarnation of evil. So, and for that matter, he also has his minions, his foot soldiers, which would be the parademons. Parademons also appeared in different looks in the comics and in the toy lines before, such as Superpowers, that saw around 1 or 2 versions of the parademon. And then they were also seen in the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoon series, but of course they didn't look like this. They were predominantly green in color, with some yellow gloves and boots and so forth, and they would usually carry rifles, laser rifles, and they are able to fly, they have wings. Now this version here is just an updated version of a parademon for the New 52 line, and you can tell that Darkseid towers over him, so they're still smaller than Darkseid. Now, when the invasion of a certain world starts, the parademons are always in the front line, and this is how they look from behind. This is also made by DC Collectibles, and I managed to get 2 of the parademons, so that Darkseid has at least 2 soldiers in his army, and this is how they look like side by side. So that would be as far as the story of the Darkseid and his planet goes. Next in line to be covered will be Black Adam. Black Adam is a bad guy, and he is the enemy of Shazam. Shazam being a young boy who was chosen by a wizard to carry the power of Shazam, so practically when he shouts the word Shazam, he will transform into a full adult male with the powers of Zeus and strength of different gods in Greek mythology. And Black Adam here was chosen by the wizard way before Shazam to try and be the hero as well, but Black Adam here turned to the dark side, as they say in Star Wars. He turned to the dark side and he became evil. He was very corrupted, and he used his powers for the destruction of humanity, not for the good of humanity. Now this figure here is just made by the DC Collectibles, and it's based on the New 52 storyline. He comes with a molded hood which cannot be put over his head, so that's just molded on there. He comes with a battle damaged rubber cape. Now what's interesting to know that his face and the hairstyle and the cape were not the face and the hairstyle was different in the classic version of Black Adam. He had more of pointy ears, so he almost looked like Namor from Marvel, head-wise and the hairstyle-wise, or like Dr. Spock, kind of like him with the pointy ears from the Star Trek. So he also did not come with any cape in the classic version, but since I don't have a classic version of Black Adam, I cannot show you the differences, but I can tell you that there was no cape in the old interpretation of Black Adam. He does have a usual articulation that's to be expected. No ab crunch, no articulation in the waist, no ankle pivot, just a minor movement in the ankles. Actually, sorry, in this case, sorry, that's my mistake. The ankles have absolutely no articulation whatsoever, so there is no ankle pivot and there is no articulation of any kind in the ankles. It does have articulation in the knees, in the elbows, in the wrists, and the head can turn a bit left to right, and legs can move ever so slightly forward and a little bit backward, so nothing major in that sense, and he cannot do any splits. So, and he has quite an interesting facial expression molded on, because you can tell he's about to destroy somebody, so he looks quite impressive for that matter. So that would be the story of Black Adam. The next one here I have that's based on the New 52 version is Bizzaro. Now he looks more like a Frankenstein monster here in the looks of him, and something in between a Frankenstein monster and a zombie, but he still came out rather well. He has his backward letter S, however no long sleeves this time for him, but short sleeve, so you can sort of see more of his skin, and the color of his pants and the boots is sort of more brighter than it should be, because you can see the contrast of the shirt being light blue, but the remainder is not so bright, it's more shiny. For some reason, two different paint applications were applied for the costume. He does come with the soft rubber cape that's again a bit shiny red, and again, as usual, just like what I mentioned about Superman and Supergirl before, there is absolutely no letter S on the cape, at least the backwards letter S. For some reason they're omitting that detail from most of the Superman characters over from different toy lines. For some reason they just don't see plausible to put any letter S on the cape. However, he does have plenty of articulation. He doesn't have ankle pivot, but he can move. He has a movement in the ankles, a slight movement forward and backward, but not sideways. The movement in the biceps, in the elbows, in the wrists, and can move arms up and down. He can do a split, so yes, there is that, so he can split. And he can move head left to right. And there is an ab crunch in the torso. And I believe actually I'm not certain about it, but I think there is no movement in the waistline, but there is an ab crunch, so he can move about that much forward. And Bizzaro was practically created in the comics decades ago to be an opposite in every sense of the way, to be an opposite to Superman, so he speaks backward, and his sentences usually make not a whole lot of sense except to him. He is just like a very bad creation created through a failed experiment. He was either created by Lex Luthor or by someone else. I did not really read comics much to be able to get the idea how he was created, but he seemed to be an accidental creation. He was always portrayed as a villain, especially in the early cartoons of Super Friends, and then he saw his appearance in a more aggressive way in the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited TV cartoon series, and also he did appear in the Superman animated series from the mid-1990s, where he was shown more of half aggressive, half just misunderstood creature because he didn't know where he belongs. And he was that popular among fans that he saw several versions of his figure being released in specifically DC Direct / DC Collectibles. One of the better figures which show him in the classic costume would be the DC Direct Alex Ross Justice League figures. He is shown there, and I do have that figure, so I will talk about different versions of Bizzaro in a separate video. But that's one of my favorite versions, where he also looks a bit like a zombie, but quite menacing in appearance. So yeah, Bizzaro is practically an imperfect version of Superman. He did have appearances also in the Lego Batman game Beyond Gotham Part 3 as an unlockable character. And there is even a mission involving him and Bizzaro versions of the Justice League members, at least the main ones. He also has a good friend who is called Bizzaro, which is a Bizzaro version of Batman. And both of those figures, based on Ed McGuinness art, were released by the DC Direct a few years ago. I do have Ed McGuinness figure of Bizzaro, but as I said, more about different versions of Bizzaro in another video. So anyway, that's as far as Bizzaro version goes, this particular one. And now the final figure for the closing of this particular discussion today is Deathstroke. I never had a Deathstroke figure until now, and he is looking rather darn well. He is based on the New 52. So from what I remember in the comics when I was a kid, he was mostly the enemy of the Teen Titans, but lately he's also an enemy of Green Arrow, and he does appear in the Green Arrow TV series. And he is a very much a type of character who is very similar to characters such as Deadpool, because him and Deadpool are both assassins. Deadpool can work for the good side and the bad side alike, while Deathstroke is usually working for the bad side only. And of course the third character who could also measure himself with Deathstroke is also from DC Universe, but I do not have his figure at this point in time, is Deadshot. Deadshot is also an assassin, wearing a very similar attire to Deathstroke, and he uses these guns that are attached to his wrists, and he's very precise and accurate with that. So Deadshot appears in the Suicide Squad movie and in the numerous comics. Deathstroke here appears in quite a large number of comics from decades ago up until present day. He also had a few figures of him made, predominantly in the Batman toy lines, and of course he did get a figure in the DC Universe Classics by Mattel, and there is at least a couple of versions of him available in DC Direct and DC Collectibles. This is one version that I have, and he looks amazing. He comes with armor that's not detachable. He does come with several weapons. He comes with this enormous, sort of futuristic version of a machete, the blade, that looks like this. He comes with a handgun that looks like this, and he also comes with a holster that contains a knife that's right here, and the knife can be pulled out. He also has quite a bit of detail on his belt, on his utility belt, so he has all sorts of pouches molded in, some, I'm assuming, bullet pouches and hand grenades and all sorts of things that he's using, and a pretty big buckle here, and the shoulder pads. Articulation wise, he cannot do a split, but he does have the typical more normal kind of articulation, which is in the ankles, moving legs forward and a little bit backward, and in the knees, and in the elbows, and of course just below the elbow he can move his gloves left to right. and he can move arms up and down. And in this case there is also articulation in the biceps. You can move them left to right, and the head also has some slight movement, but in my case I guess it's a bit stuck now because it wasn't used as much. So yeah, that would be Deathstroke. Real name being, if I remember correctly, Wade Wilson. That's his true identity. And yeah, so his fame mostly lies with the fact that he is a mortal enemy of the Teen Titans. He does have an appearance in an actual animated DC movie called the Teen Titans Judas Contract, so he can be seen there. And as I also mentioned, he can be seen in the Green Arrow TV series as well. So that would be Deathstroke, quite an amazing character with a equally impressive costume. So anyway, that's all the bad guys I have at the moment based on the new 52. So thank you guys for watching, and in the next video I'm hoping to cover some of the versions of the Justice League that are available in the new 52 costumes. Thanks for watching. Bye.